Listen to me. You're not tired. You're not broken. You're not stuck. You're undisciplined. You're untrained. You're unaware. But today, that ends. Today, we charge. Not away from the fire, into it. We stop blaming the boss, the father who left, the girl who betrayed, the system that denied. We stop searching for sympathy and start owning our story. We stop asking, why me? And we start declaring, try me. You've been playing defense your whole life, reacting to what happens to you instead of creating what happens through you. But you were never made to survive. You were made to subdue, to steward, to dominate. You want peace? Stop waiting for the world to hand it to you. Peace don't come from people. Peace is a decision you make when you realize nothing around you gets to control what's in you. You've been letting your emotions run the show. Fear, anxiety, jealousy, resentment. But you don't feed a fire by pouring gas on it. You starve it. You contain it. You command it. And when you learn to master what's inside, you won't have to chase what's outside. You think detachment is weakness? No. Detachment is warfare. Detachment says, I don't need you to agree with me to know who I am. Detachment says, I'm not moved by your applause, and I'm not broken by your rejection. Detachment is not numbness, it's focus. Detachment is a spiritual declaration. My identity is not on the auction block. Some of you are losing sleep over people who were never meant to stay. You're carrying emotional debt from conversations that were supposed to end years ago. Let it go. Release it. That's not cold. That's kingdom. That's not selfish. That's stewardship. God gave you energy to build nations, not argue with opinions. You are too called to be this reactive, too gifted to be this emotional. You are wasting divine breath, arguing with people who don't even know your assignment. And here's the truth. Until you detach from the drama, you will never attach to your destiny. People ask me, how do I stay strong? You choose every single day. You choose discipline over dopamine. You choose mission over mood. You choose legacy over likability. You choose to take charge. You weren't built to break. You were built to bend, to stretch, to rise. Stop giving other people the remote control to your emotions. Why would you let them press play, pause, rewind on your soul? You say you want success, but success starts with stillness. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care deeply enough to rise above what doesn't serve your purpose. You're not avoiding the storm. You're becoming the eye of it. Take responsibility, not just for your actions, but for your atmosphere. The room should change when you enter it. Energy should shift. Darkness should shrink. Not because you're loud, but because you're aligned. You're waiting on a sign, but you're the sign. You're waiting on permission, but you are the authority. You're waiting for something to click, but listen, it already did. When you got that breath this morning, heaven was saying, go again. You can't carry power and pity in the same hand. Let one of them go. When you finally stop blaming the storm and start becoming the storm, that's when you change lives. That's when you break chains. That's when you fulfill the assignment heaven wrote for you before you even had a name. So what now? Charge. Not later. Now. Charge with grace. Charge with truth. Charge with power. Not because it's easy. Not because it's fair, but because it's yours. The calling is yours. The responsibility is yours. And the reward? Oh, it's coming. But only for the ones who take it. Responsibility begins where blame ends. That's the line between those who stay stuck and those who start walking. It's easy to point fingers to say, it's because of them. It's easy to carry pain like proof, to replay every betrayal and say, see, that's why I can't move forward. But listen, your next level is not waiting on their apology. It's waiting on your authority. Every time you blame, you hand over your power. You're telling life, I'm not in control. They are. And the truth is, no one can take from you what you refuse to surrender. When you blame, you build a wall between you and your destiny. It might feel good in the moment. It might feel justified, but it becomes a prison. Blame is emotional debt. And like any debt, the longer you carry it, the more it compounds. And one day you wake up owing your peace, your purpose, your potential to a moment you could have walked away from. The day you stop blaming is the day you stop bleeding. You stop giving power to what was and start creating what will be. Responsibility doesn't mean it was your fault. It means you won't stay a victim. It's not about denying what happened. It's about refusing to let what happened define who you are. You can't change your childhood, but you can rewrite the legacy. You can't undo the betrayal, but you can build something stronger in its place. Taking responsibility doesn't diminish your pain. It transforms it. It says, this pain won't become my personality. It'll become my platform. You're not weak for letting go. You're wise. Because when you stop waiting for people to fix what they broke, you start fixing what you're called to build. Some of the greatest warriors were forged in silence. In rooms no one saw. In seasons no one understood. They didn't need validation. They needed vision. And vision comes when you stop rehearsing what went wrong and start reaching for what's next. The moment you say, I'm responsible for my peace, I'm responsible for my mindset, I'm responsible for what I do from this day forward, that's the moment chains start breaking. Heaven doesn't wait for perfect circumstances. It moves through willing hearts. People who are done waiting for someone to come rescue them. People who stand in the fire and say, I'm still here, I'm still going, and I'm not blaming anymore. So if you're tired of repeating the same cycle, look at where you've been pointed. Then turn the mirror, own it. Not with shame, but with strategy. Because when you take full responsibility, you take full control. And when you take control, you shift the atmosphere, not just around you, but inside you. And once that changes, everything changes. Detachment is not apathy. It's clarity. It's not shutting down your heart. It's learning how to guard it. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care deeply enough to stop being pulled in every direction by things that were never yours to carry. It's not coldness. It's control. Control over what gets your energy, your emotion, your attention. Because when your heart is too open to everything, you lose sight of the one thing that truly matters, your purpose. You were never called to react to every move, every opinion, every betrayal. You were called to move with intention, to live from a place of truth, not turbulence. And the problem with most people is they confuse compassion with chaos. They think love means losing themselves. They think strength is being constantly available, constantly reactive. But true love, true strength knows how to stay rooted in peace, even when the storm is screaming. Apathy says, I don't care. Detachment says, I care, but I choose peace over participation in the drama. Apathy disconnects from everything. Detachment discerns what's worthy of connection. You don't have to respond to every text. You don't have to explain yourself to every critic. You don't have to carry the weight of everyone's dysfunction. That's not love. That's self-abandonment. And you can't fulfill your assignment if you're constantly bleeding from other people's brokenness. Detachment is wisdom. It's spiritual maturity. It's realizing that peace isn't passive. It's powerful. It's understanding that your emotions are sacred and you don't just hand them over because someone triggered your insecurity. You observe, you assess, and then you act, not out of impulse, but out of insight. That's what makes kings different from slaves. Kings rule their domain. Slaves are ruled by everything around them. You're not weak for stepping back. You're strong for knowing when to protect your spirit. Because when your emotions run wild, your vision gets blurry. And when your vision gets blurry, your purpose starts fading. The enemy doesn't need to destroy you. He just needs to distract you. And nothing distracts faster than an untrained heart. You got to get to the place where you say, I will not let this steal my joy. I will not let this shape my identity. I will not let this moment define my mood. That's detachment. Not because you're unfeeling, but because you're focused. Not because you don't have emotions, but because your emotions don't have you. When you detach, you don't lose compassion. You find clarity. You don't stop loving. You love better because now it's from a place of overflow, not obligation. You don't disconnect from life. You rise above the noise so you can hear life. So stop apologizing for guarding your peace. Stop calling it cold when it's actually kingdom. You are not here to absorb every wound. You are here to carry purpose, and to carry it well, you must walk in clarity. And clarity only comes when you finally detach from the things that were never assigned to your destiny. Control is an illusion, but stewardship is divine. You were never meant to control every outcome, only to be faithful with what's in your hands. That's the difference between frustration and freedom. Control says, I must make everything go my way. Stewardship says, I will give my best and trust God with the rest. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to know the ending. You're not the author of the story. You're the steward of your assignment. Trying to control outcomes will wear you out. It will drain your peace, confuse your purpose, and exhaust your spirit. Because every time you try to control something that was never meant to be yours, you trade divine flow for frustration. You grip tighter and tighter, thinking, if I just work harder, if I just worry more, if I just try again, but the more you strive, the more it slips, because it was never about control. It was always about trust. Stewardship is different. Stewardship says, this may not be what I expected, but I'm going to honor it anyway. It's being faithful in the unseen, consistent in the mundane, excellent in the small things. Control seeks power over people and circumstances. Stewardship seeks alignment with purpose. Control needs a guarantee. Stewardship moves by faith, and faith is what pleases God, not anxiety, not manipulation, not fear. The moment you realize you're not here to control outcomes, you step into a whole new level of peace. You stop worrying about what they say, what they think, how it looks. You start asking, what have I been given? And then you build, you water, you grow, because the results aren't your responsibility. Obedience is. You don't determine the harvest. You just plant the seed and trust that heaven will do what only heaven can do. That job, that relationship, that opportunity, it might not turn out the way you want it, but if you stewarded it with honor, with integrity, with diligence, you didn't lose. You won in the spirit. Because God doesn't bless outcomes. He blesses obedience. Control is rooted in fear. Stewardship is rooted in faithfulness. Control needs proof. Stewardship trusts the process. You can let go now. Let go of the illusion that you're supposed to make everything perfect. Let go of the burden and hold everything together. That's not your weight to carry. You were never created to manipulate life. You were created to move in divine rhythm with it. God is not looking for perfection. He's looking for partnership. And partnership doesn't start when things go right. It starts when you surrender. Your strength is not found in how much you can force. Your strength is found in how much you can trust. And when you finally stop trying to control and start choosing to steward, your energy shifts. Your clarity deepens, your spirit stabilizes, you become grounded, not grasping, focused, not frantic. You become a vessel, not a victim. And that's when heaven begins to move, not because you forced it, but because you aligned with it. When you detach, you ascend. The moment you step back from the chaos of your emotions and the noise of other people's opinions, you begin to rise, not just physically, but spiritually. Mentally, emotionally. Detachment isn't escape. It's elevation. It's not about running away from reality. It's about seeing it from a higher place. It's understanding that when you stop letting everything touch your soul, you finally get the clarity to move like the person you were created to be. You were never meant to live on the ground, tangled in every comment, every offense, every opinion. That's where the flesh operates, reactive, triggered, insecure. But you've been called to walk in spirit, and the spirit doesn't get dragged into drama. It doesn't get shaken by every storm. It rises above it. The eagle doesn't flap in panic when the winds rise. It spreads its wings and lets the storm lift it higher. That's detachment, not indifference, but elevation through discipline. You keep trying to fight everything at eye level, but the battle isn't even there. The battle is above. The power is above, and you'll never rise if you're always clinging. You're holding on to what they said, what they didn't do, how they made you feel. You're holding on to wounds, to control, to expectations, and it's weighing you down. You can't fly when your hands are full of things that were never yours to carry. Detachment is not saying, this doesn't matter. It's saying, this matters, but I won't let it master me. It's emotional authority. It's spiritual confidence. It's being able to say, I love you, but I'm not going to break myself trying to fix you. It's knowing how to stay present without being consumed. That's strength. That's power. That's wisdom from above. You don't need to clap back. You don't need to prove your worth. You don't need to constantly explain yourself. You just need to rise. Rise above the noise. Rise above the fear. Rise above the need to be understood by people who were never called to walk with you anyway. The higher you go, the smaller some things look. That's how you know you're ascending. What used to offend you now gets silence. What used to trigger you now gets prayer. What used to stop you now becomes fuel. And the beauty of detachment is that you don't have to stop loving people to stop depending on them. You can still show grace without sacrificing your growth. You can still be kind without losing your boundaries. You're not less spiritual because you set limits. You're actually more focused, more effective, more available to your real assignment. You were never meant to stay low. But as long as you attach yourself to every emotion, every reaction, every little offense, you'll stay grounded. Let go. Breathe. Look up. You weren't made to crawl. You were made to ascend. And the climb starts the moment you choose peace over pressure, wisdom over reaction, purpose over attachment. Pain is a portal to purpose. It's not just something you go through. It's something you grow through. Most people run from pain, numb it, hide it, deny it. But pain, when stewarded with wisdom, becomes a mirror and a map. It shows you what matters. It reveals where you placed your identity. And if you let it, pain will lead you right into the center of your calling. You weren't promised a life without pain. You were promised purpose through it. The very thing that tried to break you is the thing that's building you. Not on the outside, but in the unseen places, in the core of your character, in the foundation of your spirit. Pain teaches what comfort never could. Comfort maintains. Pain transforms. Comfort keeps you still. Pain launches you into motion. You want strategy? Let pain teach you. You want direction? Let suffering guide you. Because the truth is, your greatest wisdom won't come from your wins. It'll come from your wounds. You don't gain authority by avoiding adversity. You gain it by walking through it with revelation. When you realize that your pain has purpose, you stop asking, why me? And start declaring, watch me. You're not weak because you're hurting. You're becoming. You're being refined. Every tear, every heartbreak, every betrayal is carving something deeper inside you. It's stretching your capacity, your compassion, your discernment, your power. And sometimes God will allow the breaking because what's inside you can't be born until the outer shell is shattered. There's oil in you, but the olive must be crushed. There's gold in you, but the fire must refine it. The pain you feel is not a punishment, it's preparation. You keep asking for purpose, but purpose doesn't come through ease. It comes through endurance, through trusting God when it makes no sense, through staying faithful when it still hurts. That's where your character is forged. That's where your anointing is tested. That's where your calling becomes more than an idea. It becomes a conviction. You don't come out of pain the same. You either come out bitter or you come out better. And the difference isn't what happened. It's what you chose to do with it. You can let pain paralyze you, or you can let it propel you. You can stay stuck in what they did, or you can rise up into what you're called to do. But you can't do both. There's someone on the other side of your pain waiting for your breakthrough, waiting for your story, waiting for your voice. And when you take responsibility for your healing, your pain becomes someone else's freedom. That's purpose. That's legacy. That's redemption. So no, the pain didn't come to destroy you. It came to develop you. And when you stop running from it and start learning through it, you'll see it for what it truly is, not an obstacle, but an open door, a portal to the version of you that doesn't just survive, but walks in power, purpose, and divine authority. The spiritually mature don't react. They respond. That's the mark of true power. Reaction is automatic, impulsive, emotional. It's the untrained soul acting out of instinct and insecurity. But response is deliberate. It's measured. It's rooted. Response says, I know who I am. I know whose I am. And nothing around me has the authority to dictate what's inside me. You see, when you're reactive, you give the world control over your state of being. When you respond, you take that control back. Most people live in reaction mode. Someone disrespects them, they react. Someone disappoints them, they explode the traffic, the news, the mood swings of others. They let all of it control their inner atmosphere. But spiritual maturity requires a shift from flesh to spirit, from noise to discernment, from ego to purpose. When you react, you're a slave to the external. But when you respond, you're a steward of the internal. You have to understand that not every emotion deserves an action. Not every offense deserves a reply. Not every battle is yours to fight. Reaction may feel powerful in the moment, but it often leads to regret, confusion, and more chaos. That's why maturity requires restraint, the ability to pause, the wisdom to breathe, the strength to say, I'm not going to let this moment pull me out of my mission. When you respond, you're not suppressing emotion, you're submitting it to vision, submitting it to divine timing, submitting it to your values, not your impulses. And that's what makes you powerful. Not how loud you can get, not how quickly you can clap back, but how deeply you're rooted in truth. True strength is quiet, it's controlled, it's anchored. Jesus had all power, and yet he didn't react to every insult. He didn't prove himself to every critic. He responded when it was necessary and remained silent when it was strategic. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. And you've got to get to that place where your identity is so solid, your purpose so clear, your spirit so grounded that you don't feel the need to chase every fight or answer every doubt. Because here's the truth. When you react, they own the moment. But when you respond, you own the moment. You create space between the trigger and the decision. And that space is where power lives. That space is where your higher self shows up. That's where your calling speaks louder than your emotions. You don't need to be perfect, but you do need to be intentional. Emotional maturity is not about denying feelings. It's about directing them. You feel it, but you don't let it lead. You acknowledge it, but you filter it through faith, not fear. And that's what separates those who walk in influence from those who stay in cycles. So train your spirit, discipline your heart, learn to lead yourself before you try to lead others. Because when you stop reacting and start responding, you don't just survive the storm, you start commanding it. And that's when you step fully into your authority. Ownership is freedom. The moment you stop waiting for someone to rescue you, to fix you, to understand you, that's the moment you take your life back. As long as you keep assigning your progress to someone else's apology, you'll stay stuck in a story that no longer deserves your energy. Owning your life doesn't mean everything that happened was your fault. It means you've decided to no longer be controlled by what happened. Blame feels comfortable. It gives you something to point to. It gives you a reason for why things aren't the way they could be. But here's the truth. Blame is a prison. It gives the keys of your future to someone who might never come back. Ownership, though. Ownership unlocks the door. Ownership says, I may not have caused it, but I will carry the responsibility to heal, to grow, to build, to move forward. That's real power. You're not free until you stop saying, they did this to me, and start saying, this happened, and here's what I'm doing about it. That shift is everything. That shift takes you from being a victim of circumstance to a steward of destiny. And once you step into that mindset, you begin to realize how much authority you really have over your time, over your energy, over your environment, over your response. Ownership means you stop living at the mercy of moods, other people's decisions, or the lack of opportunities around you. You don't control everything, but you are responsible for what you do with what you've been given. Some people are born into pain, others are thrown into it, but everyone has the power to choose what they build from it. And ownership is that choice. It means you stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop waiting for motivation. You stop waiting for the green light from others. You become the green light. You say, let's go. Not because it's easy, not because it's clear, but because sitting still is no longer an option. Because waiting for someone else to fix your life is no longer acceptable. You can't move in freedom and stay in blame. You can't walk in authority and carry bitterness. Ownership requires forgiveness, not because they deserve it, but because you do. Because you deserve to live light, to live focused, to live fully present in your purpose without being chained to old disappointments. And here's the most powerful thing about ownership. It builds consistency. When you take full responsibility, you stop relying on inspiration to carry you. You move with discipline. You move with intentionality. You show up whether they support you or not. Whether it feels good or not, whether it's hard or not, that's what separates dreamers from doers. That's what separates the average from the unstoppable. So take ownership of your growth, of your story, of your attitude, of your mission. It's not about control. It's about choosing freedom. And freedom begins the moment you say, it's on me now. Your peace is your power, not your title, not your bank account. Not your connections, your peace. When you carry peace, you carry presence. You walk into a room and shift the temperature without saying a word. That's not charisma. That's alignment. That's not personality. That's spiritual authority. You see, peace is not passive. Peace is not silence. Peace is not avoidance. Peace is a weapon. It's a force. It's the loudest voice in a chaotic world because it comes from a place the world didn't give and therefore can't take away. Too many people are chasing noise, fame, recognition, validation, and losing their peace in the process. They're addicted to applause, but allergic to stillness. But the ones who make real impact are the ones who've learned how to protect their peace like it's sacred because it is. When you protect your peace, you protect your power source. You stay connected to the divine, and that connection keeps you stable while the rest of the world is spinning. Peace is not the absence of problems. It's the presence of God in the middle of them. It's the awareness that no matter what's shaking around you, nothing's moving in you. You're anchored. You're rooted. You're unbothered, not because you don't care, but because you've trained your soul to submit to something deeper than emotion. That's what gives you the edge. That's what gives you clarity when others are confused. That's what allows you to make decisions from a place of vision instead of panic. Your peace is too expensive to hand out carelessly. You got to stop giving it away to people who don't value it. Stop allowing every opinion to have a seat at your table. Stop letting temporary situations steal your eternal mindset. Not everything deserves a reaction. Not every fire is yours to put out. Sometimes your silence is your strategy. Sometimes your calm is your calling card. People will wonder why you're not moved, why you're not anxious, why you're not caught up, and the answer is simple. You've made peace your priority. This doesn't mean you don't confront things. It means you don't confront everything. It means you pick your battles with wisdom. It means you know when to speak and when to stay silent, when to engage and when to walk away, because you understand that your energy is limited and your assignment is too important to be distracted by every little offense. You don't owe the world your anger. You don't owe everyone an explanation. What you owe is your obedience. What you owe is your alignment. What you owe is your purpose fulfilled. And peace is the environment where all of that grows. When you operate from peace, your decisions are cleaner. Your relationships are healthier. Your vision is sharper. So protect it, defend it, fight for it. Because when the world is loud and your spirit stays still, that's when you walk in real power. And when you walk in that kind of power, nothing, absolutely nothing, can shake you out of position. You are not your emotions. You are the master of them. Emotions are real, but they're not always right. They're not supposed to lead you. They're meant to inform you, but too many people live life letting their feelings drive the wheel while their purpose sits in the trunk. You can't fulfill a calling while being ruled by whatever emotion shows up that day. Emotions are signals, not directions. They tell you something's happening, but they don't tell you what to do next. That's where your spirit comes in. That's where maturity kicks in. That's where discipline overrides impulse. Your emotions can be loud. Fear can scream. Anger can boil. Sadness can linger. But just because they're loud doesn't mean they're in charge. Just because they show up doesn't mean they get a vote. You have to learn how to feel without folding. You have to learn how to honor the emotion without handing it your authority. That's what real leadership looks like. Self-leadership. The ability to say, yes, I feel this, but no, it doesn't run me. There's nothing wrong with having emotions. Jesus wept. David poured his soul out in Psalms. Emotions are not weakness. They're part of your humanity. But being led by them, that's where the danger lives. Because if your decisions are emotional, your direction will always be unstable. One moment you're in, the next moment you're out. One moment you believe, the next moment you quit. Why? Because you never taught your soul how to be still. You never taught your heart how to submit to something higher than how it feels. You've got to stop reacting to every wave and learn how to anchor. Anchoring your emotions doesn't mean you suppress them. It means you steward them. It means you take responsibility for your inner world. It means you pause before you speak. It means you check in with your spirit before you clap back. It means you evaluate whether your emotions are aligned with truth or just triggered by trauma. Maturity is not about having fewer emotions. It's about having more control over them. Not fake control, not pretending, but real internal mastery. You feel anger, but you don't let it poison your words. You feel fear, but you don't let it paralyze your steps. You feel sorrow, but you don't let it steal your hope. That's power. That's divine authority. Because when you master your emotions, you gain clarity. And with clarity comes confidence. You stop second guessing every decision. You stop letting anxiety forecast your future. You stop treating feelings as facts. And when you do that, you walk differently. You speak differently. You lead differently. You are not your anger. You are not your disappointment. You are not your insecurity. You are not your past responses. You are not your triggers. You are the master of those things. You've been given dominion, not just over the world around you, but over the world within you. And the moment you choose to lead your emotions instead of letting them lead you, that's the moment you become unstoppable. Responsibility without revelation is religion. You can follow all the rules, check every box, do what looks right on the outside, and still feel empty on the inside. Because real transformation doesn't come from routine. It comes from revelation. You can take on responsibility out of fear, guilt, or obligation. But if you don't know who you are, that responsibility becomes a burden instead of a blessing. You start striving to perform instead of stepping into divine purpose. You start serving from pressure instead of power, and eventually that will break you. Revelation is what changes everything. When you know who you are, really know, then responsibility becomes an act of honor. You're not doing it to earn love. You're doing it because you are already loved. You're not showing up to prove yourself. You're showing up because you know you're chosen. You're not working for identity. You're working from identity. That's the difference between dead religion and living purpose. There are people carrying heavy responsibilities right now, leading families, building businesses, serving others, but they're tired, burned out, disconnected. Why? Because the responsibility is not rooted in revelation. It's built on expectations, fear of judgment, or people pleasing. And the truth is, without a revelation of who you are, even the right thing can crush you. You'll start resenting the very thing you once prayed for because you're carrying it in your own strength instead of God's grace. But when revelation hits, when you see yourself the way heaven sees you, responsibility transforms into privilege. You don't just endure the weight, you rise to it. You don't avoid the process. You embrace it because you understand it's connected to your assignment. And more than that, you understand why you've been entrusted with it. Revelation gives purpose to the pressure. And you can't manufacture revelation. It doesn't come from books alone or from copying someone else's journey. It comes from divine encounter, from sitting still long enough to hear God speak about you, from walking through the fire and realizing you didn't burn, from facing your fears and discovering that grace never left you. That's where revelation lives, in the tension between what you carry and who you're becoming. Religion will tell you to act right. Revelation will transform you to live right. Religion gives rules. Revelation gives identity. And when you know who you are, you move with authority. You serve with joy. You lead with clarity. You sacrifice with peace. Not because you have to, but because you get to. That's freedom. So stop carrying responsibility that isn't rooted in truth. Stop trying to earn your worth through performance. You were already approved. You were already anointed. You were already assigned. But you need a revelation to believe it, because only when you see yourself clearly can you carry your responsibility correctly. And when that alignment happens, when revelation fuels your responsibility, everything shifts. Your walk, your tone, your decisions, your posture. You don't just survive life. You reign in it with purpose, with peace, with divine confidence that comes from knowing, not guessing, not hoping, knowing who you are. So now you've heard the truth, raw, unfiltered, undeniable. No more hiding, no more blaming, no more waiting for the world to change before you do. This is your moment, your call to arms, your divine wake-up call to charge. Not tomorrow, now. Because the greatest shift in your life won't come from motivation. It will come from ownership, from standing tall and saying, I'm done surrendering my power to people, to pain, to the past. This isn't about hype. It's about honor. It's about honoring the calling on your life by taking full responsibility for your mindset, your emotions, your purpose, your path. This world doesn't need more people playing it safe. It needs people who are anchored, people who have mastered the art of emotional and spiritual detachment, not because they don't feel, but because they feel deeply and still choose clarity, still choose obedience, still choose vision. You don't have to be perfect to walk in power. You just have to be present, present in your assignment, present in your peace, present in your responsibility. That's what separates the call from the chosen. The chosen show up even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when it's lonely. And now it's your turn. So charge forward, eyes locked, spirit grounded, heart clean, mind clear. Not because the road is easy, but because the purpose is worth it. You were never called to live at the mercy of your emotions or the opinions of others. You were called to lead, to build, to shift atmospheres. And that starts with one decision. I take full responsibility for me. This is your life. This is your legacy. This is your moment. Now take it